3, 2, 1. Just a little inside joke there. Okay, everybody, welcome to my shop. And today we're going to start out with selecting a piece of wood, going over to the bandsaw, cutting it out to approximately 1 inch by 1 inch, and probably cut a 6 or 7 inch piece out of this chunk of firewood. This, like I said last week, is a piece of maple. So what I'm going to do is let you guys see what I'm doing here. Let's get this right like that. And okay. I'm going to set up my fence on my bandsaw, bring it over so I can trim out from my stock. Trim off the bed. Here I'm using a push stick so I don't get my fingers anywhere close to that bandsaw. Now I have a split right here in the end. So approximately a rough inch by inch piece of wood, and this is 6 3/4 inches long. And now we'll take this over to the lathe. And which direction do I want to have you guys look from? Hang on just a second. If you look right here, my arm that controls my lighting, it decided to fall down. On occasion. Alright, let's hit pause. All right. And it's not going to stay back there. All right, give me a minute here. And let's try this again and see if it'll stay up there now. Okay, bring this over, hang up the light. Oh, good, it's staying up there this time. Okay, there you go. Got that taken care of. It's always something when you're doing videos. It just happens to be not what you expected. All right, let me knock this spur or center out. Put that over here. Grab a spur center. Put that in the headstock. And move the tailstock back, and then for this I just want it close to center, the center on tailstock. Bring this over and out a little better. I'm turning on a jet 1221 variable speed lathe. I have a piece of maple on the lathe between a spur drive and a live center. Live center just meaning that it revolves. I'm going to start out and I'm going to be using my crown tool, and this is a 3/4 inch roughing gouge, and it has been sharpened to a 45-degree angle, and I do this on a diamond wheel on my 8-inch grinder. Run with the lathe wide open, and all I'm going to do is bring up the gouge, and I'm going to touch the bevel on the bottom right about here, and when it taps the wood or touches the wood, at that point I will raise the handle up until it starts to cut. Once it started cutting a very little bit, then I'm going to go across. Come back across, and I'm going to keep going back and forth. Now, what I'm trying to achieve is I want a round shape to the piece. If you look close right here, there's still a slight flat spot, and there's still just a little flat right here on this end. So we're going to turn it back on. Still turning, running wide open. Alright, now that's round. And it's round all the way around the piece from end to end. Now, for a beginner, after you've roughed, you could go straight to sandpaper, and you could address the wood starting with 120, 220, 320, 400 grit sandpaper. And that would be enough for the first pin that you're going to turn. In this case, for me, and for anybody that wants to start familiarizing yourself with a skew chisel, a scrap piece of wood is the best place to begin. Alright, this is my skew chisel. It's put out by Robert Sorby, and this is an oval skew. Some guys will tell you not to use these, but I didn't have a lot of luck in the beginning with a standard skew that has the square edges. This one here, standard skew, it's sharpened with an oval on the cutting edge. Some guys, a gentleman, a very professional wood turner, Alan Lacer, if he sees this one, he'll take it away from you and give you one of these. Well, sorry Alan, but this is what I learned on, and this is what I like. I've brought my tool stock, my tool rest, higher elevation, and I'm going to bring this up until it starts to cut, and then go across. And at that point, I'm going to round this off a little bit. That tends to hurt when you hit your fingers. Alright, now that I've used my skew, I have a finish here that I could, right now, go to with my CA finish that I prefer to use and go put it right on the wood. Another piece of wood, mount this between centers, take my roughing gouge, Bring it up, rub the bevel, let it cut, and go up. Alright, there. Now I have another piece of wood that I turned and it's slightly rough. So then, not comfortable with a skew chisel, turn the speed down, move your tool rest out of the way, come down to about 1000 RPM, and then take 180 grit sandpaper, there, got most of the tool ridges out. There's a little bit of tool mark right here that you can still see. So you just take your sandpaper and go with the grain. Alright, now go from the, in this case I'm using 240 grit. Turn the lathe back on, still running at 1000 RPM. Just a light touch. I'm not putting any pressure with my finger from the underside. Just enough to have the paper contact the wood. Alright, there. Now, nice and smooth. Find a clean place on the paper and go with the grain again. And trust your fingers. Let your fingers feel the wood to see if there's anything your eyes are missing. All the way around the piece with the 240. And now, it won't take much work here because the 240 has knocked down any of the leftover little ridge marks from the tool and the previous sandpaper. Alright, that's nice and smooth. And now, once again, sand with the grain. Now, if you had a pin mounted on the lathe, once you get this done, you want to clean the wood. For me, I like to use acetone, and the reason I use acetone is because it flashes off very quickly, and I just put a small splash on a paper towel and I wipe back and forth, and you get that little bit of sanding dust on the paper towel. Switch to a new section, clean section, go back and forth again. And look at that. Perfectly smooth. I will start off with thin CA. I'm going to go back and forth with the thin. And all this coat is doing is sealing all the pores in the wood. This is, I'm going to turn the lathe on at about 600 RPM. And I'm going to do one more coat and make sure that it's shiny evenly across the workpiece. And here it's not. So, once again, without it running, oh yeah, now that's got it perfect. Looks good. I addressed it with sandpaper. 180, 240, 400, and then put a coat of thin super glue on it. Now I'm going to put on a coat of medium super glue. accelerator. And one more drop of medium. And accelerator. And as I lose all my pieces, right. All right, now that's dry, and you can see a little bit of shiny and a little bit of dull. So I'm going to turn my lathe back on, and I'm going to use thin CA. Accelerator, and then thin CA one more time. And accelerator on that. All right. Now looking in the light, I can see that I filled up all the dull spots. And it's even all the way back and forth across the piece now. Take micro mesh, and this goes from 1500 grit all the way to 12,000 grit. Going to turn the speed down on our lathe about 600. Make sure your micro mesh is nice and wet. Light touch. Go back and forth and wipe. Go to your next grit and next. And now this one, at the end, when you're running the 12,000, it's not sanding so much. What we're doing here is we're polishing. You've gotten all your sanding scratches out with your previous grits, and now all the last one is doing is putting a nice mirror finish on your super glue. Use AC abrasive, and this is a sanding paste. I'm going to take just a little dab of this on my fingertip, and I'm going to go across, distribute it evenly, and then I'm going to take my paper towel, turn the speed wide open, and I'm going to polish that. I'm not applying a lot of pressure to the paper towel. I don't want to build up heat because heat will melt super glue. All I want to do is have that grit in the paste finish out any mild scratches I may have had in my super glue finish that I've applied, and then sanded with micro mesh. This is very fine. Then I'm going to move to a clean section of my paper towel and remove the excess, and then once again a clean section of paper towel. And then I'm going to reduce my speed again. Turn it off, look at it. I don't see any imperfections in the finish. I'm going to take AC polish, put just a little bit on my finger and put it on. And then with the speed running on high once again, I'm going to find a clean section in my paper towel. Very light touch, just bringing it up till there's a minimal pressure from my fingers. And continuously finding a clean piece of paper towel that I'm touching the workpiece with. I'd be happy with that pen myself if this were an actual pen. And it's just as smooth as a baby's behind. That's all there is to making a pen. It's that simple. Cut some short pieces of wood. You can get a piece of wood off of a firewood pile. And that's all this was. It came off of my neighbor's pile. Piece of maple, and it turned out really nice. Another piece of maple that I had sitting here on my workbench with a CA finish on it. Hey everybody, my name's Kevin. If you like this series and you like what I'm doing, give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you'd like to see. Next week, I'm going to actually do a slimline pen. Start to finish, from cutting a piece of wood to turning it on the lathe on the pen mandrel with the bushings, and then the CA finish, and taking it to the workbench and assembling it and showing you what you can do. All right, everybody. Have a great Sunday, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.